At Charity Charge, our mission is to power yours. Most banks and financial service providers weren't built for nonprofits. They don't understand your structure or how you operate. That's why we exist. We proudly serve more than 3,000 organizations across the U.S., offering tools built exclusively for the sector. From credit cards and expense management to bookkeeping and gift cards, every solution is designed to help you minimize operations and supercharge your impact. And we're more than just financial services. We're an educational community. We share resources every day on our podcast, blog, and webinars to help you stay informed, compliant, and empowered. Visit charitycharge.com to learn more and join the community. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Charity Charge Show. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are pleased to be joined by Joe and Lacey Kendrick. Joe serves as the Executive Director of the Christian Mission over there at the YMCA of OKC. And Lacey is the Vice President of Financial Development and kind of helps out in a variety of different ways at the organization. And we're really excited to have them on today, get their perspective. And Joe is going to speak a little bit to the history and mission of the YMCA as well. Joe, Lacey, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Really excited. Y'all are our first couple that we've had on the podcast. I'm really excited to have you on. Can you speak a little bit to y'all's history and how y'all came into working at the same organization as well?
Yeah, we've actually been married for 22 years now. We met in college and saw each other, well, in the dining hall at college, and I didn't remember that I met him, so he likes to tell that story. But he knew he was going to marry me, apparently, or at least date me, so a fun little story to tell the grandkids one day. But yeah, we've been together for over 2 decades and have been through various career stages and life stages and found our way to Oklahoma City. And I've been working for the Y for 6 years now in financial development. And then Joe came along 3 years ago now. He took over a new role that was created for our organization to focus on culture and spiritual development and family stability. So the Y is close to our hearts, both from a vocational side, but also our own children are very blessed to be a part of the Y family and have been greatly impacted by the programs and services that we offer. So it's a good place to be.
That's incredible. And Joe, can you speak a little bit to, I think you mentioned and explained it by the C and the YMCA and the importance of that within your role that you stepped into over 3 years ago now.
Yeah, my role is a grant-funded position to help our organization steward the mission of the YMCA, which is a Christian mission. That is our historic call that we were founded on to help people find fullness of life through Jesus and help on the social redemption side of taking care of folks through housing, through anti-poverty initiatives, through healthy living, teen development, job training, workforce development, all that.
Incredible. And how has this last 3 years been as you've stepped into this role, Joe?
Oh, it's been the best job ever. I thoroughly enjoy it. I get to be as creative as I want to be and need to be, and I get to work alongside some amazing people. And my job is, I like to say if you're going to use, like we use football terms, I'm the fullback. I make the way for people to be able to do their job the best way possible and to become the best versions of themselves, not just at work, but in life.
I love that. And something that really came through in our last conversation is this wealth of knowledge in the history of the organization. And also that I believe ties in with a recent trip that you were on. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yes. So, as I said, part of my job is being a steward of our mission and our Christian heritage. And that begins with George Williams, who in 1844, along with 11 others, founded the YMCA in London. George was a young man who worked in a drapery factory and walked in and when he arrived, he saw an absence of grace, an absence of hope, an absence of joy, and it's industrial revolution, and they're making 45 pounds a year, and it's just chaos. And the young men he worked with were all just lost and didn't have that hope. And so he did whatever 19-year-old could do and just prayed about it. and just asked that God would send him somebody. And a month later, God sent Christopher Smith to become who joined him as a roommate. And the two of them talked about what they're seeing, and they began to pray, and 10 others eventually joined them. And that group of 12 founded the Young Men's Christian Association in a dorm room right next to St. Paul's Cathedral in London. And there's a plaque in London right there across from it that says, "Here at this space, a movement of God was created. It has now encompassed the world." And I believe we're in 120 countries now throughout the globe. And so the YMCA mission and organization is not just a USA, Oklahoma City thing. It's a global phenomenon.
I love that. That's incredible. And what about that trip? Are you open to bringing to the work that you're doing out there in OKC?
Well, it's just there are three things that we've kind of focused on for our strategic plan and for the next 5 years, and that's boldness, community, and leadership. And for my trip was we went with several other YMCA leaders, and we walked the steps of George Williams. And the biggest takeaway is that he handed this off to us, that we're carrying on a call that God gave him. And so we're stewards of his call and steward of God's work in Oklahoma City and throughout the world. And so we need to be bold about it. We need to just lean into it and own it and understand there's complexities to it. Christianity itself is complex. So just lean into it, own it, lean into the Christian principles, because when we talk about Christian principles, so for those who don't know, our mission is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And when you talk about them like justice, peace, hope, love, forgiveness, they're like, oh yeah, those are great principles. Everybody can lead that. Well, the reason they're Christian is because it comes from the life and work of Jesus. And the life and work of Jesus points towards a kingdom of God in which there's no more suffering. There's no more pain. Poverty doesn't exist. The world is made whole. It's made right. It's turned right side up. And so it's important for us to be bold with that and to lean into that. And that community piece of we're here for the community. We're not just a gym and swim. They can go get that at Planet Fitness, at 10 Gym, save themselves some money. But we're here for the community, for them to become the best versions of themselves. And then leadership, to lead in a way that is transformative. And so that trip really, the work I've been trying to do recently and have leaned into is just that boldness in the community face and in that leadership.
I love that. Thank you for that answer. Something that we speak to on the show so often is that the work of a nonprofit. You have the mission, and then you have kind of the foundations in that, the business that enables that mission to take place and accomplish. And that's why I'm so happy that we have both of your voices here today, in the sense of representing that mission and in that that back end and the business fundamentals that go into running that. Lacey, can you speak a little bit more to what your role is within the organization, and what success looks like for you as well?
Sure. Yeah. So YMCAs are a little unique in the nonprofit sector. In fact, some people don't even realize we're a nonprofit, but we have our earned revenue side of
Of
things. So
course.
our membership dues, program fees, and ultimately that is to keep our doors open, keep our lights on, make sure the equipment is up to date, that we have all the health and safety things that we need to keep people healthy and safe in our spaces. And then we have the philanthropy arm. And ultimately, I'm responsible for ensuring that not only that we're meeting those metrics needed to have our programs to ensure access, but also then supporting all of our local leaders at our individual branches to ensure that they have the tools and resources and training to do their work as well. So we are our association. We keep adding new ones. So now I'm like trying to do all the math. So we're up to, I know it's a crazy time at the Y. We're loving it, but we're like, whew, okay, great for the holidays. So we're up to 14 facilities that are a part of our
Wow.
association. Yeah. And those are, full service. We have pools, we have the gyms, we have the fitness floors, we have locker rooms, childcare spaces. And so when you think about kind of the level of operation that goes into that, it's very complex, it's very detailed, but that means there's also a lot of need. So one of the things that we say at the Y is that we never turn anyone away due to an inability to pay. And we really truly mean that. So when we have a family come in, you have a single mom who's got 3 kids and she needs childcare, it's our job to make sure that we can provide accessibility and affordability to that mom so that she can, to Joe's point, be the best version of herself for her children, for her family, and whether that's, being able to go to work, and whether that's, we have drop in for our members who can come and drop off their kids or grandkids for 2 hours so that they can go and, for a mom, that might be the only time she gets to herself during the day,
Mhm.
right? And for anyone that's had babies, like that might be her shower for the week, where she's not worried about, the baby crying or needing to be fed. And we're grateful to be able to do that because of the philanthropic side of our work. And we also are really proud of the fact that we gave out over 250,000 meals and snacks to kids last year. And that's through amazing partnerships and amazing support through grants, through YMCA of the USA. And so ultimately, when I look at success for our organization, not only are we providing efficient and effective operations so that people have a phenomenal experience, but we're also addressing and listening to the needs of our community and then adapting our work to what they need and then finding the appropriate funding and partners to ensure that that work can happen. And so we have some of our steady programs that we do, but then also more recently, with the government shutdown, we had to evaluate and say, okay, what's the need right now?
Mhm.
And how can we pivot? I know we all, like despise that word at this point in our lives, but I don't have another one at the moment. How do we pivot, right? And adapt to ensure that we're actually meeting people where they're at and not making assumptions about what they need or just continuing on like business as usual because it was not business as usual. And we needed to make sure that we were meeting the needs and taking care of people, either those that were in our building or outside of our building, in the ways that they needed us to in that moment. So ultimately, I'm always looking to make sure that what we're funding, what we're sharing with our donors is what the actual needs of the community are. And that to me is successful if we're being adaptive and evolving as we go to serve the people of today and not, from 10 years ago or what we think that they need.
I love that. And those two key topics that I think really jump out that you mentioned in terms of enabling the adaptability for the organization to
Mhm.
support that mission is that funding and then that community, collaboration.
Yeah.
I'd like to briefly talk on the funding a little bit because I think many nonprofit organizations would look at the YMCA structure and just really wish that they had that, the earned revenue stream,
Yeah.
that comes with the structure that y'all run. But I know that that also can create challenges in your communication with potential donors on the philanthropy side. Can you
Yes.
speak a little bit more to what that looks like, what the relationship between, a member of the Y to a funder of the Y,
Yeah.
and the overlap, that's potentially there as well?
Yeah, so I think for us, it is about telling the story in the best way possible. When we talk to donors, it isn't about, you know, we're raising money so we can have the newest treadmill on our fitness floor. We're raising money so we can buy new basketballs. When we talk to donors, and this is just like any other organization, we're really discussing the people and the people that are impacted and the ways that their lives are transformed. A treadmill doesn't sound sexy, right? But I can tell you a story about a woman who was sober for 9 months, but she had ultimately switched that addiction to food. She was up to 200 pounds and knew that she needed to do something to change her life. And so she found her way to the YMCA, where she was able to bring her child to our child watch and drop them off. She joined the cycling community, which cyclists are like hardcore. If you've never met one, like they're awesome, like rock stars. She joined that community. And ultimately, not only did she lose the weight, she became a personal trainer, like certified personal trainer, but she built this community that she would have never found had she not had that space that was available to her and her children. And her life has been transformed, right? So we could talk about the cyclist, we can talk about the treadmill, we can talk about the child watch, but ultimately, our goal and our job is to tell the story of the Jessicas of the world and the Rodneys of the world. And so that's really our task in development across the nonprofit sector. But I think it is particularly difficult in the Y because people know this as gym and swim. And so, how do we distinguish ourselves and help people to understand that our work actually goes beyond the four walls? Because we have a variety of programs that are happening outside of a standard YMCA branch, wellness facility. And so, it's really important to us that we're sharing those stories and really looking at, what is what's the global impact that we're having? What is the long term impact? So I can talk about how many meals we served, but ultimately, what am I doing for those children so that 10 years down the line, they have a more stable life?
Mm.
15 years down the line, they are more successful. And so ultimately, that's always what we're looking for and trying to convey to our donors. On the membership side of things, I will tell you, and this is across the board, I'm not sharing any industry secrets at the Y. It is membership giving is hard. And for the very reasons that you're alluding to, and that people are like, well, I pay you monthly. Why would you also need a donation from me? And so that has been one of our biggest struggles. And it's not just us, it is nationwide. How do we connect members to the mission better? Especially when you only have them maybe for 30 minutes when they come in to work out or for that hour-long Group X class. So that continues to be something we work towards and something we want to do better in. And so always thinking through like, how can we engage our members beyond their check-in at the front desk and their run on the treadmill or the cycle and keep them connected beyond just their time inside our facilities?
I love that. And something that just came to my mind as you were speaking is the connecting and the differentiation
Mhm.
to just not being a gym and a pool. And what comes to my mind is that value is of the why.
Right.
As kind of Joe was speaking to a little bit, and the connection that that brings between a funder and a donor and your organization, and that also highlights the importance of having these strong values, identified and lived at all levels of the organization. Joe, can you speak a little bit more to the challenge that that is within this complex organization? You mentioned you'll have 18 different gym physical locations. How do you build those values within the layers of the team within the why of OK?
So it starts at the top. It starts with our CEO and our COO and our CFO and then our president's cabinet. And we're very fortunate to have a CEO and COO and a brand new CFO who deeply care about the why. They've grown up in the why. They know the why deeply. And so they lead from that space. And when they lead from, we talk about, I can name a dozen different types of Christian principles, but we usually keep them at five. We talk about respect, responsibility, honesty, caring, and then the fifth one is faith. And so they lead from those places in that space. And how they lead influences the way we lead. And they work hard in trying to lead in that way. Now, you can't control everything. You're leading the best you can, but there are things that you do need to put in place to create that culture that just says this is who we are. And so it goes into our training. It goes not only to just onboarding, talking about, well, here's the why. George Williams founded it. All right, now to CPR training. Or here's where we're all at. No, it's connecting to the story. And you've heard that a lot between us is it's the story that we have been given to continue. And you've got to connect to it. You've got to align with it. And that can be hard because sometimes people just want to do their job. That's just simply it. They want to go to work, they want to get paid, they want to go home. And that's great. I understand that. I want to do that too. But I also need to know why I'm doing these things. I need to have something bigger to be working towards and understanding that this in particular, the YMCA in particular, is not a gym and swim. We are an instrument of God's, or the way somebody phrased it to me was, we are agents in God's mission to heal the world. That is what the YMCA is. And so when you don't do that, when you drift from that, then the story gets lost. And then you have members who say, well, why should I donate to your community campaign? I pay you $75 a month for a family membership. But when you say, by the way, yes, we thank you so much for your membership. And because of your membership, you have access to this. But let me tell you about Jabron. Jabron has 5 kids. His wife is blind and he can't afford not only a membership at the Y, but he can't afford to take care of his family the way he desires to take care of them. If you give your gift, help Jabron attend a Getting Ahead class or anti-poverty family stability program, attend the class. And in that class, he met somebody who had a connection to the New York Transit Authority in New York City. Found out that he works IT. They get him connected to the New York Transit Authority. He gets a job working remote here in Oklahoma City to care for the IT department in New York City's transit. And his office hours, 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. What does that now do for him? saves him money on childcare. He doesn't have to drop his kids off. 5 kids, it's a lot of money to go for childcare these days. Doesn't have that care anymore. Can still get a good night's sleep, get up, take his wife to her doctor's appointments, take his kids to school, pick his kids up from school. And he's gone from an hourly job that is inconsistent to a salary job with benefits that is all because you gave to the community campaign of the YMCA. Now tell me how that is not putting respect, responsibility, caring, and faith into action. But that's the story, right? That's the story Lacey's talking about, and being bold enough to share that story. And the truth is, like, we don't want to bother members when they come in of, hey, the other day, I walked in to do a video. We're doing some videos, and I saw a dad playing basketball with his son. It's like, hey, can I just do a video of you, and you just share why you're bringing your kid? And he tells me, yes, absolutely. He does it. And afterwards, this man hugged me, like, hugged, because somebody recognized it, what he was doing and the importance of what this space was giving to him.
I love that. And I guess my question that comes to mind is how do you, incentivize that within the organization in terms of living that mission? I guess that's the challenge that we all face.
Yeah. And, Joe said it starts at the top, but I also think it starts even in the interview process, right? So we focus a lot. You'll hear a phrase around here. It's called cause-driven leadership, cause-driven work. And so ultimately, from the very first interview, yes, we are looking for certain skill sets and qualifications and experience, but we're also looking for people that already embody this mission and uphold the values in their work and the integrity of what they do, because we know that that's what ultimately makes a difference. We can hire the most experienced, technically skilled executive director, but if they don't have the heart and if they don't really embrace our values and the cause that we're here for, we're not going to get the same result. We're not going to have the impact. It's just going to become a straight operation. And that's so beyond what we do and what we want to be. And so, it is a challenge. We have, on average around 1,500 employees. I would say, I think the number is 60% of them are under the age of 22, which is wild. So you're talking high schoolers, college students. So ultimately, it starts at the top, the constant refrain of, our core values, who we are, what are you here for? And then ultimately also challenging people to take ownership. You may be a front desk person who works 10 hours a week and you're there in the evenings to make sure that everyone can get checked in. And that may feel like this doesn't matter, but empowering these folks to know, like, no, you do matter, right? You may be the only smiling face that someone sees today. You may be the only person who actually acknowledges their existence and that they're a human being. You may be the only person that provides kindness to them. That's important. So own it and be proud of the work that you're doing, even when you think it's just a job or just a front desk worker or just custodial. No, like there's no just anything in our organization. We are all vital to the mission. And and we're not perfect, but we try to empower every single one of our employees to understand their role in this bigger picture. And I think, one thing I try to convey when I'm talking with leadership is, I love the fact that we're a global movement. I love to know that I am part of something so much bigger than myself, knowing that we have colleagues and friends, across the globe that are all working from this same foundation that we just get to be a part of and get to carry that forward within our metro area and our state, just like they're getting to carry it forward in their context. And I think it's a really cool organization to be a part of because you don't have that with a lot of other spaces. And I think that also makes us unique.
That's
And
amazing.
incentivize it is, you can have rewards. Like we have an award system, service excellent awards, and those are great. But really it's challenging them. There's a CEO in Louisville before he retired. He spent most of his CEO career, he'd go visit the branches and he'd walk up to a day porter or a front desk person and he'd ask, "Hey, what's our mission?" And if they could say to put Christian principles into practice through the programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all, he'd give them $5. He'd go to camp for a day, and the kids would find out he's there, and they would run up to him and they would rattle off. So by the time he retired, the entire organization knew what the mission statement was. That's because they knew, hey, if I could say it to Steve, Steve's going to give me $5. And it's silly. And he's, I don't know how much money he spent, but I've spent time with him and I've spent time with his employees. and they know the mission. Like,
Yeah.
they know it moved from the $5 to, yeah, this is who we are. This is what we're about.
Connects. I love that. And Lacey, you mentioned carrying it forward. And on that note, what does we're coming to the end of the year. What does the future look like for the YMCA of OKC? What's got y'all excited as we go to 2026?
Yeah, I always joke, like, there's never a dull moment in the Y, and you can ask any Y across the world, and they'll tell you, like, every day is different, it's always exciting, you never know what's gonna happen. And for us as an organization, we have just in the last 5 years already just experienced really unprecedented growth. We, in 2024, merged into, independent freestanding YMCAs into our association. We recently acquired a metro, like, urban camp that had been under a different organization for about 70 years, and now it's under our umbrella, which is super exciting. We'll get to launch programming there this summer. We are in a capital campaign. We're building, in the next 3 years, we'll be building 5 new
Wow.
YMCAs. Oh my gosh, yeah. And then also a lot of partnerships with municipalities. And so, that it's a lot of dollars, it's a lot of, bricks and glass and pools and water and all the things. But ultimately, for us, what that means is our impact and our reach is just gonna explode. We are adding additional childcare options. So Oklahoma is actually a childcare desert. So we do not have enough childcare seats across our state for the children and families that need them. Waiting list just for our downtown location is about 100 kids deep. And so, as we build these new facilities, we're also keeping that in mind so that we can best meet the needs of the families in Oklahoma. We also are in a food desert in many locations. We have about 1 in 5 kids that experience food insecurity. In the metro,
Mm.
it's 1 in 5. And then statewide, it's like 1 in 4. And so ultimately, that's also our goal is when we're building new facilities, it's not just to provide a pretty space. Right? We're not just making it look pretty.
Yeah.
We want it to be impactful for the community and actually have the spaces and the amenities needed to serve them in the ways they need to be served. So additional childcare, additional feeding infrastructure so we can have more feeding programs, additional partnerships so we can work with other nonprofits to have spaces
Mhm.
they need. And we love to be a convener. And I think when you look at all of that going into 2026 and beyond, I think the YMCA as we see it, our OKCY today, is going to look completely different even a year from now in the best possible way, because ultimately we're doing so many things with intentionality to meet the needs and not just do it for the sake of doing it and not do it for clout, not do it so we can, add revenue, but really ultimately, what's our reach going to be? What are the needs? And then how do we step into that in this next chapter of our YMCA story, this next era, and really become this third space for people and a place where everyone can feel safe and feel like they belong and there's no stigma to come to the Y and get the resources they need.
It's incredible. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And how can our community and our audience tuning in get involved?
I mean, I will always take donations. So, no, I think ultimately, obviously, resources are always important, but also advocacy. So, learning more about, if you're in the Oklahoma City area, like, give us a shout. We want to like take you to coffee, tell you about everything that's going on. But across the country, there are YMCAs in every single community doing incredible work. And the more that you can educate yourself on the work that they're doing, what is it? What's the phrase that all tides rise? I don't even know. I'm messing
I
it
don't
up.
know.
Rising tides raises all boats.
Thank you. I knew it was there. Someone was gonna know it. But, like, ultimately, as a movement, if we're all working towards that goal and increasing our impact, we're building stronger communities, we're building healthier families and people, and that's the best result we can get. So, wherever you're at, there's gonna be a YMCA near you. Go check it out. Go hang out in their lobby. Go meet their executive director, meet the community. You'll never know what friends you're gonna make, but you also know what you're gonna learn about what's going on in the community around you.
Incredible. Well, Lacey, Joe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing more about the mission and the impact and what goes into running, the complex organization that is the YMCA of OKC and sharing how y'all, serve in that mission to impact the community out there in Oklahoma City. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you,
We appreciate
Grayson.
it.